What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Podcast. Today, we are joined by Kelly from Bay 13. Kelly, pleasure having you on the show. We've talked about the show. We had our mindset meetups twice out of the three times at Bay 13, and we've always been talking about having you on. And today is the day, so welcome.
Well, appreciate it, man. Always enjoy having you guys here at the brewery, and I've always thought about jumping on the podcast. So, again, I appreciate this opportunity to jump on with you guys.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So we're excited to get this going, and in true mindset fashion, I know you already know this, Kelly. We always start with two just out of the box, just weird warm up questions, just to get you thinking, to get the juices flowing. And Gabe and I created these two this morning, so we're excited to see what your answers are. Gabe and I struggled with them, like we do with all our warm up questions. I feel like we always say the same thing because we never know like what our own answer is, but hopefully you can entertain us here for a little bit. So the first one is, what would be the most surprising scientific discovery imaginable?
So I've always been somewhat obsessed with the movie Back to the Future. So I've always thought about time travel. Um, I don't know if that's possible within our lifetime, but that being said, with the whole metaverse and the whole virtual reality, I think that there might be a way for them to recreate past lifetimes and worlds within the virtual reality realm based on historical documents, pictures. Where I'm at in Coral Gables, we've got the La Palma Hotel, or it's going to be a restaurant and retail, but that building's been there since the 20s. The Saint Michelle, which has been there since the 30s, and then obviously the Biltmore. I just think it would be awesome to put on either a virtual reality headset and walk into the Biltmore and have it being during that time, um, or vice versa, going into the future in a virtual reality world. I don't know if we'll actually be able to do actual time travel, but I've always thought that that would be the most coolest
Yeah,
scientific experiment
the
or
the
success.
Biltmore, if I'm not mistaken, Kelly, was a hospital at one point.
Yeah,
Like it's just so much history in Coral Gables, and I love it because Bay 13 is like right at the center of so much. It's interesting because there's a lot of historic buildings, but also
yeah.
a lot of more modern buildings. What we're seeing now, so it's a nice mix. So going back in time is what you would say.
Going back in time, yeah. I think that that
Yeah,
would be the coolest thing to discover.
that's super cool. I'm with you, Kelly. I mean, I'm a huge like docu-series and like movie buff, and I think it was probably a few months ago that I watched like the Cocaine Cowboys and like all that like Miami Vice type of like things that happened years ago that you and I weren't even like alive to witness, and like our parents are just telling us these stories, and I'm like, wow, like obviously those are dangerous times, but I would have loved to know stepping into kind of like a virtual reality. I have no doubt with the whole metaverse and all these, Oculus and all that stuff. That's probably underway as as we're speaking about it. But I think that's super cool.
And even to walk down Biscayne Boulevard when there were
Yeah,
four high rises, and then now to look around and see hundreds and hundreds, and um, just a different time, and it'd be cool to do that. But yeah, I'm sure we're not too far away from something like that. I know that there's like a lot of video games that are out there where you can kind of play and be in a different time, but I'd like it to take another step further and interact with people back in those days, and even the language has changed and everything. So
yeah, 100%. No, I agree. Well, that does it for our first question. Our second question of this little lightning round. Kelly, you work at Bay 13. It's a new and up and coming brewery. You guys have probably been open, correct me if I'm wrong, a little bit over a year. I think our first mindset meetup was probably last July of 2021. And I
yep.
know you guys were open for about a month. So Bay 13 is fairly new in the brewery game, but I've had a couple buddies of mine that they might have worked at other bars and other places, and they have some crazy stories to tell. So I'm interested to know if you have any, interesting stories, crazy stories that you guys have maybe lived through in this past year at Bay 13, or maybe even any of your other experiences at other restaurants and bars.
Yeah, so we're going up on 2 years in December. I've been in the position for a year and a couple months. Hosted a ton of events. Always kind of some crazy stuff happening. Best story I have, probably funniest story, is we had a wedding here about 4 or 5 months ago. Um, beautiful bride, awesome, turned into one of our great friends. Had a great wedding, flawless. Everything went perfectly. Um, I ended up going to their after party and partying with them afterwards. Um, 2 days after the wedding, I get a text from her name's Sasha. She said, "Hey, do you know this guy in this picture with the red shoes? It's okay if you don't." She says that her husband thought that he was with her, and she thought he was a guest of him. So I said, "No, I really don't know him. Are we? Do we have a wedding crashers situation going on?" So this guy literally came to the wedding, knew no one. We don't know who he was. We got pictures of him from all the wedding photographers. Had a steak dinner, drank about a half bottle of Glenlivet,
Oh,
danced with her mom,
oh my God.
and no one knows who this guy is to this day.
No.
So funny. We have pictures of him back and forth, wiping off the shoulder of the groom.
Oh my
It's
God.
just so funny, and he was totally not dressed the part. Everyone was in tuxedos and nice suits. This guy was in like a black shirt, sweatpants, and red Skechers shoes on.
No.
So he stood
This
out.
guy.
So my joke
Oh
was that
man.
the guy was probably just walking his dog, having his coffee, took his dog home, said, "Let's jump in." Just jumped in the wedding and acted like a guest at the wedding. So.
Well, now you know if you're listening to this and you ever want to crash a party, Bay 13 is a place where you can get away with it. So Bay 13, go hit them up, crash a party, have free wine, enjoy yourselves.
That's some tequila
That
shots
guy.
are good.
That guy deserves to have a picture like on the wall at Bay 13.
Yeah,
Like, I want to
Oh
have a
yeah,
beer with that guy.
I'll
Oh
find
my
you. I will
god.
kill you.
that's hilarious.
Oh man.
That's awesome. Well, Kelly, I know that you are the sales director over at Bay 13. I mean, you and your team have been doing an incredible job. I just saw you a few days ago with the first lady of the state of Florida. I mean, you just events after events after events, and I know you're a big part of that. And we're a big believer in you and what you got going on there at Bay 13. But for those who don't know you, maybe for those who don't follow you on LinkedIn, which I know you're also very active on, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you grew up, how you got into this restaurant industry, and really just who's Kelly?
Yeah. So my parents met at Ohio State University a long time ago. I don't even know how long it was. My dad ended up being a great salesman. Worked for a couple companies in Polaroid film, and then ended up working for the Energizer battery company. Moved us to Gainesville, Florida, when I was 5 years old. I grew up there. Go Gators! My mom's still in Gainesville. Is right there off 34th Street off Bivens Arm, and great place to grow up. Amazing. Played varsity soccer in high school at Gainesville High. Um, I kind of got that's where I kind of got my competitive edge. I love competition, love sports. Um, didn't stay in Gainesville. Wanted to get out of the city since I had grown up there, so I went to Orlando. Ended up going to UCF, playing rugby, varsity rugby for the Knights at UCF, and then ended up getting into the hospitality program there. Again, a great decision. Loved hospitality at that time, and it was an up and coming college. Ended up being it is now. It's been rated the top hospitality college in the nation,
Nice.
Shanghai Magazine. So I've had great success with that with the degree. After college, I ended up getting into the hotel business. Worked with Hyatt Hotels and Resorts. Did their corporate management training program and sales. Traveled, went to DC, lived in Georgetown for a year. Ended up going to Atlanta and Buckhead, lived there for a year. That's right around 2007, 2008, actually 2008, 2009, when the recession hit. And I just made a lifetime decision, packed up my stuff and moved down to Miami. Had never lived down here before, but had visited many times and absolutely loved the city. Um, Once I got down to Miami, jumped around South Beach, moved to Wynwood, moved around to a few different places. Ended up working in some great restaurants. The Ocean Air Seafood Room was one of them. Uh, Started doing more operations as opposed to sales. Started as a server. So I came from a hospitality degree and as a sales manager in a hotel. and then I started there as a server. So that kind of took a little bit to kind of it's a little bit of a pride issue, but I said, hey, I have to do what I have to do. Ended up learning a lot on the front end of the front of the house end of it. So learned how to bartend from some amazing bartenders, and then got the opportunity to start doing events again at that time. Um, Became the sales coordinator there. Um, Again, amazing experience. Did some amazing events with that company, and then left there. Went to Fogo de Chao, which was the Brazilian steakhouse on the beach. Was there for a
Hey,
few years.
preaching to the choir.
Loved it there. Was number one in the company for a couple years with them. I was back when there was 12 stores. Now there's like 100 now. But yeah, did some great things. Have topped around a little bit, and then found myself back. Found myself in Coral Gables for the first time, and here at Bay 13. So that's kind of my story. Absolutely love the industry. Um, Love the brewery aspect of it. Love the beers. I'm in a place where I definitely enjoy coming to work each day, having a great time doing what I'm doing, and really enjoying the people that I work with as well.
Yeah, Kelly, that's so interesting, and I love that you just told the story. And again, like Anthony mentioned, preaching to the choir. I love fogo de chão. Like that's I'm Brazilian, so that's probably as close as I can get to like authentic Brazilian food. Not to shame any other places, but fogo de chão is definitely one of the best. But just hearing your story, and it's interesting to see because the hospitality and the restaurant business, there's a certain like reputation around it. It's not, it's super fast paced. There's not really one or two people that stand out. Yeah, there's amazing, Michelin chefs, and now there's bartenders that have gained a following and an influence on social media. But back then, 2008, 2009, when you were kind of starting off your career, I can't imagine that hospitality and the restaurant business and breweries and bars were super sexy like they are now. So I applaud you for even taking that jump and wanting to dive into such a business like that, because I think it goes to show that you were passionate about it. But take us back to when you were at UCF. Like, what was the deciding factor that you're like, hey, like I want to study hospitality? Was it that you had a certain experience at a restaurant? What was that decision like for you to kind of set forth your career?
Well, it was actually one person did that to me. I had been taking mostly business classes up to that point, still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then there was a professor. He's pretty well known now in the industry down here. His name's Peter Ricci. He's at FAU now, but he's huge in the industry. He did degree programs during the lockdown, during the COVID stuff, hospitality certificates. But that was way back in 2006. He was the professor at UCF, and he just really changed it for me. He basically just broke it down and said, "This is the best industry you want to be in right now. If you like taking care of people, if you and that's my personality is I really like going above and beyond and not just making people satisfied with their experience at the restaurant or the brewery, but making lifetime memories to where they remember you for years and you're in pictures with them and what have you. I don't want to do something to where I'm just forgotten the next day or I want to be someone that people can count on, people remember to say, hey, well, my buddy's planning a birthday party. Let me give Kelly a ring, or my buddy's doing a nonprofit. Uh, Let me give Kelly a ring, and always know that I'm going to be uh, consistently perform well within my abilities.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that I think, Kelly, is your bread and butter, and that of Bay 13. Like, people can go there and know they're gonna have a good time. Like, they don't have to. Oh man, it's gonna be a hit or miss. Like, they know they're gonna get exceptional customer service. They know they're gonna get exceptional treatment and things of that nature. So that's why I think so many people love Bay 13. That's why Gabe and I have had our mindset meetups twice already at Bay 13, and more to come. But Kelly, out of so many years of being in that industry in different restaurants, Bay 13 and others, what have you gathered is the most important leadership characteristic or leadership trait that you've acquired that maybe you didn't have before you started that you do now?
Yeah, so I've kind of always had it. It's when you're passionate about something and you find something that you really love doing, um, you kind of you your emotions and your leadership is kind of brought out, and people see that. So there's people that you don't know what they're going through each day. There's people that come in and they're having hardships, whether it be health or financial or what have you. If you just come in with a smile and you really take your time to kind of see how people are doing, and if they need to talk outside, or if you need even like giving people a hug, you know what I mean? It doesn't seem like it's like a lot to do, but it may like change their life forever. I've had people that they're just tearing up, and and you just take them outside and you say, "Hey, talk to me. Like, well, what's going on?" And you give them a hug, and that's it. And that kind of stuff to where I've had managers that could give they could care less about you. You know what I mean? A lot of learning, it's not just from the people that have done so well, and you learn the best things about how to lead and how to do things the right way. You learn a lot about how to do things the right way by watching people do things the wrong way as well. So, as many great managers I've had, I owe it a lot. I owe a lot to those people, but I also owe a lot to the bad ones too. And it's funny to think about it. One of the worst ones I've had was been recently in my career, and I learned so much from that guy on how not to treat people that I owe him a lot in the end. Also, I don't ever burn bridges, no matter what. I never, no matter what you're going through and what have you. Um, I don't take anything too personally. Like
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes it's just business. Sometimes I want to take it personally, but
Yeah.
if you're gonna spend the time and effort and emotion on taking
Mm.
things personally, in the end, like what you're wasting your time. You should just move on and on to the next one.
Especially in Miami, right? When when you said burning bridges, like when you live in Miami, you realize how small Miami actually is. Like people think
Oh
it's
yeah,
millions of people, and but it's a very important lesson we just said there that you learned of not burning bridges, because especially with when you move around within an industry, like let's say you go work at another restaurant, you're probably going to run into people that worked with you in the past or what have you that maybe didn't treat you as well. And now hey, here I am. Like, we meet again, kind of thing. Like people think
right.
like you meet somebody and then you don't see that person for a long time. But Miami has its funny way of having people circle
Sure.
back around.
Sure, it's not. I mean, it's funny because Miami's such a global city and what have you, but the little pockets within the industries and within some of the neighborhoods, they're really just small towns, especially Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, South Miami. It's Miami, but it's still small towns within. So your reputation is key as well. Like your reputation is really gonna um, catapult you to the next position, or it's not going to let you get into that next interview. Um, your word as well is always coming through with what you say you're going to do. I always like to respond immediately, and you always have to follow up as well. A lot of times within the position, people get so busy, whether making menus and servicing the events, that sometimes the follow up isn't there. And I think that second or third follow up may be the key to the closing the deal in the end.
Yeah, absolutely, Kelly. And I think, again, circling back to what you mentioned previously, and I relate so much to what you said about learning and giving credit to those who may not have set the best example, but you learned all the bad things and all the things to avoid. I went through something similar too early on in my career. Like my freshman, sophomore year of college, I was interning at a marketing agency, and I was super hyped. I was so excited. It ended up being like a 4 month internship. Um, and no disrespect to them, but the leadership wasn't the best. The strategies, just like the overall morale of the company, and I was the lowest of the lowest there. And I was one day thinking, hey, I want to have my own marketing company, I want to have my own agency one day and do what these guys are doing. But I'm like, I don't want to be like these guys. These guys are setting such a bad example. They're treating their clients so poorly. And someone told me, they're like, pay attention to that, because as much as you want to learn the good from some people, there are people in your life that are meant to give you bad examples so that you can avoid them, because we can learn by making mistakes on our own, or we can learn from avoiding the mistakes that other people have already made. So
Right.
I feel like that's such an important lesson, and I'm sure you're the leader that you are today, and you're the sales director that you are today at Bay 13, because of all the culmination and all the experiences that you've gone through at all these other places, that now you can accumulate and be like, hey, this happened at this restaurant, I know what's going to happen if that happens again. Let me try this. Like, let me avoid this. And I think that's such an important aspect. And I think that's such an important lesson for young people to learn today, because they're looking
Right.
for mentors and they're looking for people to kind of get advice from and seek guidance from. But they're forgetting about all the people that are in their life that may be setting a bad example, where you don't have to listen to those people, but just pay attention to them so that way
Right.
you can avoid those mistakes in the future. So I want to ask you again, being in this restaurant industry, where do you see it headed? Like, I think, you know, we were talking a little bit ago about the metaverse and going, you know, back in time and into the future. The hospitality industry is one that it really interests me a lot, and I'm sure you know who Dave Grutman is, and he's, you know, one of the biggest hospitality you know, owners here in Miami specifically. He's done such a great job, and that's really almost shifted my perspective in what hospitality and the restaurant business really has to offer. But coming from someone like you in the business already, where do you see this business going? Because Anthony and I have had people on, and we had a chef on recently, and he was saying how, you know, especially with food and recipes and cooks and stuff, it's more than a meal, it's an experience, right? And I think that's really where the hospitality and the restaurant business is going. It's, yes, you're going there for a meal to you know, get the food that you need to survive, but at the same time it's more of an experience, a social happening for people to meet and mingle and really get to know new things and new cultures. Where do you think, as someone in the business, you know, where do you think the future of the hospitality business is going?
Yeah. So specifically within the Miami market, um, it's going to the sky at this point. I mean, we've got Thomas Keller going into the La Palma building within the next year. Just that being said, it's if all the chefs are coming down here. David Grutman is doing huge things, doing opening up restaurants with Bad Bunny, and it's within the Miami realm. Just with the influx of so many New Yorkers and Northeasterners into the city, that I think that it's really going to be one of the top global culinary destinations, with obviously within the world. It's awesome. Now, in terms of the macro sense of the industry, I think that we're going to continue to see trends to where technology is going to be implemented on different levels. I was just looking at a thing on LinkedIn the other day. It's, are we really going to need actual bartenders within the next 10, 20 years? I think yes and no. For a service bar, that can, a robot is going to be able to make those drinks more efficiently and more consistently than any human ever could. But are we going to get to the point where a robot is going to be able to have an intelligent conversation and be a psychologist and be a tour guide and be? I think eventually yes, but that's kind of even scary to think of at this point. Um, I think that there's going to be a lot more. Um, I think that the food is going to be continue to be elevated as well.
Mm.
I think that the cost of food is going to probably be continue to be higher priced for at least the short term, just due to the everything that's going on within the economy and in the world, global world. Um,
Mm.
the bar end of it, I think we're gonna probably go back to more um, cocktails that are made with science, and there's going to be cooler kind of drinks out there. There's going to be the liquor is going to be more pure.
Mm.
Um, they're going to continue to evolve with technology, the different types of alcohol that we have. I think that they're going to start doing a lot more beer stuff too. I think that with the trend of the breweries that are coming out, I think that there's going to be tenfold before it's all over. People don't like drinking cheap beer anymore. I mean, it is what it is. You can see it by the numbers.
Yeah.
People are into craft beers. That doesn't mean everyone's going to be drinking an IPA.
Right.
But even with our brewery, is we're brewing a lot of um, lighter Mexican lagers.
Mm.
We just did a black lager. It's a darker beer, but it's very light. So people are going to continue to get onto that craft beer
Yeah.
bandwagon. I think for the foreseeable future. Something we've started doing recently is beer paired dinners. So a lot of places have done wine paired dinners, especially with like California wines. They'll do a different set of meats, a prefix menu, and then different wines from a certain region or a certain grower. We're doing it with different types of beers paired with different meal food items as well, and that's been a success. We've been doing that for probably 4 months now. We'll be continue to do that for the foreseeable future. That's been great. What else? Events. No, since no one could get married during the COVID stuff, there's going to be a ton of social groups coming up within the next few months. Everyone that didn't have either a holiday party is probably going to have a huge one this year, this
Yeah.
December. So I think within the next few months, the event side of the business is gonna be booming,
Yeah.
probably a lot more than last year. I don't know if you guys remember, but the last week of December last year, we had all of our events were canceled.
Mm.
Can't remember if it was the Omicron or the Delta, but that one of those last waves, and it knocked out the entire books for the
Mm.
last from the 22nd to the 31st of that
Wow.
month. We lost half of our staff during that time, so we were running on bare bones.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that something like that doesn't happen and continue to
Yeah.
happen again. I don't see that happening. So
Yeah.
it's just
Well,
it's been a crazy time. It's been a crazy last couple of years for the events business, but if we've been through all this, I don't see anything that we can't get through at this point.
well, Kelly, I wanna correct you a little bit. Everybody likes more expensive beers if you're not in Gainesville. If you're in Gainesville, you want whatever it is, watered down grape juice, put some alcohol in it, call it a day, $2. I mean, come on, Kelly, you lived in Gainesville, you know how it is.
Yeah,
We'll take
I've chugged
whatever it
Natty
is.
Light.
Watered down apple juice. Just give me something that doesn't look like water, and I'll drink it. I mean, come
Come
on,
on,
man.
man. You're way more sophisticated than I was when I was in
No,
college, man. I thought you
I'm
were like
speaking
35
on
years
behalf of the
old.
Gainesvillians. I personally, I'm not too much into beer. Gabe knows I'm
Don't
more
lie.
guy,
Don't
but
lie.
just messing with you a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Look,
Gainesville will
hey,
never
man,
change. Let's hope that.
college students, man, we're on a budget. We're on a budget. We'll take whatever we can get. But no,
There
good
you go.
good point there. And last question for you, Kelly, before we wrap up here. And I think this is going to be a good one. What what would you do? Right, talking about time travel a little bit, kind of circling back. What would you do if tomorrow you were able to go back in time and talk to your, and I know you're so young, but talk to your 20-year-old self, 19-year-old self. You can go back in time tomorrow and go back to young Kelly, whatever you're doing at that age. What advice, knowing everything that you know now, would you tell 20-year-old Kelly?
That's kind of a tough one, man, because honestly, I don't have that many like regrets with what I've done in my life. Um, I probably would have said that I probably would have told him to drive slower and not have wrecked those three freaking awesome cars that I had. I had
Oh
a
man.
'79 Mercedes. I had a
Oh,
'91 Prelude SE.
oh,
Yeah,
Oh
honestly
man.
though, like driving when you're 16, 18, 20 years old, it's totally different than driving today. Now I'm like in the right lane going
yeah.
five
Yeah.
Taking
over
it
the speed
easy.
limit on 95. Back then I was we were flying through like I'm lucky I didn't die. I've been in two accidents, pretty decent, not horrible ones, and then one pretty bad one where a car flipped over. Um,
Oh,
that I mean that's probably what I would have told him is just be a little bit safer
yeah.
back then, and I don't know what else. Drink a little bit less. I think most
You're
most
you're in
most bad
you're in,
decision I've made have been come through shots of tequila at 12 o'clock.
oh man. No, it's R&D, research and development. You're in the right business, man. It's all right. I think we can all agree that we probably would have driven a little bit slower. But as we wrap up here, Kelly, I need to ask you this, and this one's for the people, right? And I don't want to get any hate for this question. And I
Uh,
know this, the seltzer business has taken over these last few months and years even. You being the beer connoisseur that you are, working at Bay 13, what is your take on seltzers? Because I know the whole carb thing, the whole sugar, all that stuff. But tell me for the people, what's the truth? What's your take on it?
I hate it, man. I absolutely hate it.
There you have it. Thank you for coming, guys. Mindset
Yeah, yeah.
out.
Seltzer's done, man. So get a Tito's and soda. Isn't that basically the same? No, I can't drink it. I've tried a few. I can't do White Claw. There's no taste. I don't even know what I'm drinking. Like honestly, and the buzz on it is it's a weird buzz. Like I don't. Our brewer hates it, so we'll never have seltzer here. So if you want to do seltzer, you're gonna have to find somewhere else to do
Go
it. Now
somewhere else.
now sours, that's a different one. Sours I've come on to a lot with some of these different sours that they're coming out with. They're pretty spectacular, but seltzer, can't do it, man.
Interesting. Well, you heard it here first, everyone. Seltzer's Bay 13. You'll never hear them in the same sentence. But Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time out. Again, you've played such a pivotal role behind the scenes of the Mindset podcast, even though people don't really know. But facilitating and helping us with the mindset meetups, which is such a big part of who we are and the reason why we do this. So again, we've done it 2 times. It will definitely not be the last. We'll definitely be there very soon. And for any of our friends listening, where can they find you? Where can they go to Bay 13, find you guys on social media? Where are you guys at?
Yeah, but Bay 13 Brewery on Instagram. We're at 65 Alhambra Plaza in Coral Gables, across from the Hyatt and the La Palma building. I'm here all the time. Come by, have a
Nice.
flight of beers, taste some of the beers we have. We have an excellent kitchen, full liquor bar, some awesome bourbons, and biggest Australian wine list in the nation. One of them. So
Wow.
a little bit for everyone, man. You can't wait to
Yeah.
have you guys back, man. Look forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're looking for seltzers, not there.
Nope.
Not a Bay 13. Got to go somewhere
11-11.
else. Yeah, there we go. Well, Kelly,
Gainesville.
thank you so much for having us. I don't know if did you want to plug your LinkedIn? I know you're active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's Kelly Griffin on LinkedIn. You can just search me, and got a lot of people, so you'll probably just be able to find me pretty quick.
Awesome. Awesome. There we go, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and mindset out.